All right. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Trying something a little bit different today. I've been wanting to make this style of video for a long while where I've got my drawing or painting on in the background and I'm able to just ramble. I do like to ramble. This video is going to be just me talking about my radical way of finding my style. I will admit that was trying to get a little bit of like, not clickbait, but just make the title like radical. What's he gonna say, you know? But basically I put this painting on in the background for two reasons, and that's because I'm watching it right now as I'm going through it, so I'm not gonna look at the camera all the time. But this is my second ever full-blown original painting in Photoshop, but it's also only like my third ever original painting where it's something that I haven't copied straight from another picture or just had a reference every step of the way. And you'll see a lot of the choices that I make in this video, I end up changing them. I end up going back and doing something sometimes completely different. I started the face over, I must have done the face like 4 times over before I was actually finally happy with what came out. And that's sort of how I wanted to present how I've been finding my style. Is I don't know what the fuck I'm doing half of the time. A lot of the choices I make, I make them and then they either feel good or they don't, and from there I will change something up or move something around. But the most difficult part, I'd say, of that is not knowing whether you like the choice you made, it's actually making the choice. And because especially now with digital painting, I feel like I have so many options with every single brushstroke, you know. Ran out of breath while I was talking there. But I have so many brushes I can use. I have infinite color. I don't have to mix any color, so I never have to worry that like I don't have enough of it, or if I mix it wrong a second time, I won't have any more. And that's been a gift and a curse, because for one, it's a lot easier to just jump into different colors or different textures. But as I said as well, it's like infinite choice, and you don't know what choice to make a lot of the time. So you'll see here, I'm busy painting her hair right now, and I'm like, this part, I'm not liking this. I'm thinking like, this is an ugly stage that even I'm not sure of where it's going, but I'm just sticking with it and I'm just adding stuff. And a lot of this up until this point is no reference. It's just me like trying to use the knowledge that I have already, because I've been practicing a bit of shading and a bit of sketching and this and that. But really I'm just going for it and trying to test my eye. And I like some of the choices, but here we go. Here's the first time I actually switch up on changing the face around and trying to get it to look more like my sketch. But one of the things that helped me a lot with, I mean, this is going to sound so obvious, but one of the things that helped me a lot to finally make the right decisions or feel good about my decisions was learning about the basics and then making a decision from that on how I wanted to sort of break those rules or make it in my own way. So I started this face over twice. I made this one. I wasn't so happy with it. She kind of looks like a man. And then I went back to the old face I had and then again created a new one. And the last face that I created, I don't know, I really started to resonate with. One thing that's been helping me massively with my art and moving away from references and just straight copying pictures and things is just forcing myself to do something I'm looking at the wrong camera here. Forcing myself to do something different, because I used to do realism and I got fairly good at it. But I just wasn't connecting to it anymore. I felt like I was just copying other people's art or just other people's photos and stuff, and it honestly got really boring. And I started sketching, and I made a video about that, and I started using colors in painting. The first major jump was pushing myself to actually start painting with like real paints. I was using acrylics and things and going into color, and that was a massive learning curve, and I feel like it boosted my art in a really cool direction, a really good direction. And I'm really proud of some of the early paintings that I made. But again, I was facing the same problem where I was still painting a picture that I was looking at, like a statue or a bird. Those were the two first paintings that I did. If you've seen them, I think I've made videos about them. I'm definitely sure I have. But I wanted to make my own thing. It wasn't the color that was the problem. It wasn't the understanding of shadows and things that was the problem. It was the fact that I wasn't creating my own artworks. I wasn't connecting to them because it didn't feel like it was coming from me or my imagination. But the caveat with that was that I had to learn how to use color, and I had to learn how to use proper shading techniques, or not even techniques, just understanding shading as a whole and how shapes create the entire picture. You know, everything on this time lapse now, everything that I was drawing in realism, everything that I'm learning now is just to do with shapes and how everything fits together. And that's not something you can just accidentally figure out. You definitely have to sit down and take the time to study this stuff and really just try and understand what the fuck is going on, you know? Because I didn't understand what was going on. I think that's one of the biggest things I was facing, is while I was copying these pictures and the drawings that I was doing, or the paintings that I was creating, they looked very cool, but there wasn't much understanding in there, you know? And full circle back to why I'm making this video and showing this painting specifically while talking about this, is because I feel like I'm at a point now where, like, I can trust the decisions I make, and if I don't like it, I can always just change it, you know? And that comes from being able to say, I don't like this decision, or that doesn't look right. And that all comes from just time and understanding and giving it a good go. My radical approach to finding my style is sort of relentlessly trying to push past the challenges that you'll inevitably face in every single artwork you create. And if you're not facing any challenges in your artwork, it means you've hit a ceiling and you need to try something new. You've gotten comfortable with your process or your technique, and style is evolving. It's constantly changing. If you look at any artist 5 years ago and then look at their current work, it will look completely different. Sometimes it might not even look like it was made by the same person. And I get that with myself, at least, where I look at older paintings or older drawings and things, and I'm like, I don't even remember doing that sometimes, you know? I don't remember what I was thinking anymore. That's another thing as well, is when you're creating, style is heavily dependent on your influence at the time, the information you're taking in, the visual content, the audio content, your thoughts at the time, you know? Style can change very quickly depending on how you change as a person. And I think that's one of the greatest things about art, is the work that people are creating is deeply from themselves, you know? And this goes for realism artists, for abstract painters, for basically any style of art, you know, is the fact that two people can draw something in a hyper realistic style and they both come out looking different. It's just, that goes to show like your influence and your perspective matters so much, because technically two hyper-realistic drawings should look exactly the same, because the point of hyper-realism is to make it look as realistic as possible. And if you're drawing from the same reference, it has to look as close to that reference as possible. I mean, maybe higher definition, because some references are very low resolution. Sort of lost my train of thought again. I'm getting hungry. I haven't eaten food. I've just been editing and recording and now chatting to my audience and things. Every now and then I'm just going to tune into the music playing in the background. I may have had just a slight bit of smoke before I started this recording. What are people calling it? My dad calls it boom. Anyways, there is, looking back at my painting going on in the background, there is some parts that are cut out accidentally. I forgot to hit record when I started painting. I don't have like an automatic time-lapse thing, which I really need to do. One thing that helped me greatly in this piece, and I know this is a difficult thing to hear because it's like, how the fuck do you do this? But letting go of trying to make something look perfect and just putting down some marks on the page or on your canvas or on your drawing pad. Just stop thinking about what you're doing so much and instead let the process be intuitive. Put down marks where you feel they should go, or where literally like where your hand wants to go. Like you need to try and figure out how to just let your hand do what it wants to do, because muscle memory plays a massive part in this as well. Or not necessarily muscle memory, because I'm drawing on a tiny black pad and looking at a screen, so it's like, how does muscle memory play a part in that? I'll actually explain how it does play a part in that in a second, but more hand-eye coordination of just putting marks down and immediately feeling like, was that right? Was that wrong? And you don't have to do it for every single paint mark, because obviously you have sections and stuff. So more, I find when I turn my opacity on my brush to 100, so I'm painting with just solid color, or if I was painting with acrylics and things, to just take like a nice dollop of paint instead of like dipping a tiny bit in and like painting a small piece and dipping a tiny bit. Like just get a big brush, just get an like 100% saturation, not saturation, 100% opacity on a color, and paint in shapes and blocks, and get your main highlight and shadow to look right, to feel right. That was a big thing that was helping for me. Is I used to go in with like a really small brush or a really small bit of paint or a really, really light shade of pencil and try and like slowly work my way and make these like perfect details, but it doesn't work like that. Do the big ugly shapes first, get them down. Like, does this silhouette make sense? Does where the light is hitting this make sense? Not does this tiny crack make sense in the fucking big white page, you know? You have to, big to small. Stop thinking about it. Stop worrying about it. What do the choices feel like? Not what do they look like to your marketing eye. I'm gonna end off with this. We paint a lot of the time, or we try and create a lot of the time from an outside perspective and say like, how are people going to look at this? Will someone understand this? Will this look good to someone else's eye? Stop thinking like that. Paint and think, do I like this? Does this feel right? Does this feel good? And as you can see, all of these little choices have sort of added up to what I think has become a really beautiful painting. Definitely one of my favorites that I've done. And this is not to say I'm such a good painter or I got this right, but it's to say I didn't know what this painting was going to turn out like from the beginning. I couldn't have imagined. I didn't know it was going to look like this. And you can have that too. There's a big element of just pushing past the points that you don't like, taking a step back and disregarding some decisions you've made if you don't like them. Like once you've painted something, you're allowed to change it. Just because it's on the canvas doesn't mean that's how it is now, you know? You can change. It's art, it's fluid, it's expressive, it's imaginative. Nothing is a mistake, it's just a step closer to the final product. And let's just say that that pathway is not a straight line. I'm gonna sign off, I'm rambling. I hope you enjoyed this style of video. Tell me what you'd like to hear or what you would like to know more in depth about my process. I definitely wanna make some more technical style videos of how I actually create the things inside of the program and like the brushes that I use, the techniques that I use and whatever. If you're interested in that kind of stuff, you can click the link below in the description to join my newsletter. I'm launching a Patreon soon. And in this, I'll have things like my time lapses, the techniques that I use, my sketches, just basically a place where I'm going to dump all of my art information and things that can help the community, and also try and answer some of your guys' questions and things that I may miss in YouTube videos or more nuanced and specific problems. Anyways, leave a like, subscribe, comment, let me know what you think. Peace, I'm out.